Hey there, Jamie with Brazelton Realty here. Today we're going to be looking at Greeley versus Fort Collins. We're going to look at 5 different aspects of the cities and we're going to compare and contrast those two. But before I start, hit that subscribe button and hit the like button if you like this video. So aspect number 1 that I want to look at is the cost of living. Now, there's a lot of different ways that we can calculate the cost of living in each of these. The 2 ways that I'm going to look at are going to be the cost of housing and the sales tax, because I think these are going to be your 2 biggest indicators as far as how much does it cost to live in the city. Now, for Greeley, we have an average sales price of $365,000, and in Fort Collins, we have an average sales price of $493,000. So there's a pretty substantial difference in the average cost per house. Now, when we look at sales tax, we also see a pretty substantial difference. In Greeley, we have a sales tax of 4.11, and that's the state and local combined. And then in Fort Collins, we also have a sales tax of 7.55. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the lifestyle in each of these cities as well. When you look at Fort Collins, it really has a young vibe to a young lifestyle. And so there's a lot of millennials that tend to flock to Fort Collins. You'll have a more vibrant nightlife there as well. There's a lot of restaurants, a lot of breweries. Their downtown is really well done. There's a lot of artwork, a lot of activity that goes on, and that's fairly common in Fort Collins. Now in Greeley, I'll be the first one to admit, we don't really have much of a nightlife. They've been trying to revive our downtown, and there's a lot of bars and breweries and restaurants that have gone downtown, and it's a fun place to be. Now, nightlife isn't the only aspect when it comes to the lifestyle that you live in a particular city. Even though Greeley doesn't have much of a nightlife, you still have more of a small town feel within Greeley that when you're in Fort Collins, you don't really have. It feels more like a busier, action-packed city. So depending on your preference is going to depend on, is that a plus or a minus? Now, similar to the lifestyle is the vibe that the city gives off. And understand these are massive generalizations, but each city is going to give off kind of its own little vibe. And depending on what you're looking for will depend on where you go. Fort Collins is more of that hipstery, like I said, young millennial type that it gives off. It's also very tech heavy, so you're going to get kind of that rubbing off on the city as well. Greeley, on the other hand, is really more central. It's going to be more of a slower paced city. You still have a lot of young people that live here, but you're also going to have a wide swath ages because it's also going to be a very old population as well. Now we get to population. Now, both cities have been growing pretty substantially. Greeley has been growing really fast, mostly because it has a lot more room to grow. Fort Collins finds itself kind of sandwiched in between Wellington, Loveland, I-25, and the mountains. So it's pretty limited as far as how much more it can grow. The population of Greeley is about 106,000, just a little bit over, I believe. And the population of Fort Collins is 165,000. So Fort Collins is, about 60,000 people larger than Greeley is. Now, how that feels, I will say that 60,000 feels a lot bigger over in Fort Collins. It does feel like a much bigger place, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. The traffic is substantially more. I do move a lot of people out of Fort Collins because the traffic kind of drives them crazy. I don't personally think that Fort Collins was built to handle as many people as they have living there, but it's not horrible. It's not as bad as, like rush hour downtown Denver. So it's still better than that. Now, last, I'm going to talk about some of the things to do in each of these cities. Both cities are jam-packed with walking paths, with biking paths. Fort Collins probably has more of both, but it's also bigger. Both of them have a lot of different parks. So a lot of family activities they're both pretty filled with. And they also have a lot of breweries. Northern Colorado is kind of known for that. So I'm not going to mention those things. Now, Fort Collins is closer to the mountains. And so I do think a lot of that more mountain recreation really appeals more to Fort Collins. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people in Greeley that go to the mountains all the time and do all kinds of stuff. I'm just saying, in general, you will see more people that like that kind of thing flock to Fort Collins. Greeley is more centrally located, so you don't have as many things within Greeley. Admittedly, this is one of Greeley's Achilles heels. However, again, it is very close to everything. So within 30 minutes drive, you can normally get to anything that you would like to do. But within Greeley, there's not a ton of things to do outside the normal parks and bike paths and the like. Now, that being said, Greeley is also known for the Greeley Stampede, which is a rodeo, an outside rodeo and carnival and different events that circulate around that. And Fort Collins, again, it has more of that millennial type vibe. So you're going to have more food trucks. You're going to have the nightlife again. And you'll also have things like concerts and festivals and things of that nature, more like wine tastings and brewery tastings and stuff of that nature. You'll find more of that type of a vibe in Fort Collins. I hope this was helpful to you. Again, a lot of this is just my perception of these cities. I'm trying to give people an idea of what I've experienced so that if they're out of state and they're looking at these two cities, they can kind of make a better determination as to which one fits their lifestyle, fits the things that they really enjoy to do, and that this would be helpful to them in making that decision. Now, I am going to leave down in the description market reports for both Fort Collins and for Greeley. And so go ahead and download those. They're free, and it'll hopefully help you make a decision as far as which city you would like to live in.